Hello everyone, welcome to Craftcast. I have with me today, as always,
Sean Butler.
James Dalton.
How are we, guys?
Not bad.
Pretty good, actually. A little bit tired, actually. I've been quite busy this week, but other than that, really good.
Been busy Freemasoning, haven't you, James?
Yeah, I have. So
The enthusiasm is overwhelming.
Oh no, it's been great, but we're recording this on a Monday. So last Monday, I had a meeting of a lodge that I'm visiting officer for. Had my own mother lodge on Wednesday, an initiation where I stood in as junior warden. Then I was at another lodge as a visiting officer on Friday night. Saturday morning, 9 a.m, installation as provincial deputy DC. And here today. So I've been a little bit busy the last few days, but it is a labour of love, and I absolutely love it. But as with everything, all in moderation.
I think the words I'm looking for are chill out.
Well, it's nice to chill out here, actually. I'm actually sat down for once, which is good.
And you've had some jelly beans, haven't you?
I had some new jelly beans. I would say they were my breakfast, but I actually got a cheeky croissant this morning in Cafe Nero before we got in.
A Nero man, interesting.
I don't really know what to say to that.
Well, other coffee brands are available, of course, but...
Stephen, this is called turning 30.
Oh yeah, this is...
I'm fully expecting...
I'm old bit.
4th of October, when I turn 30, the first thing I'll do is order a croissant.
Cafe Nero.
Straight to Nero. Other coffee brands are available, of course. Oh dear. Now, Stephen, you've had some exciting Masonic news, haven't you?
Indeed. Last week, for at least from whilst we're recording last week, I was elected as Master-elect of my mother lodge for the very first time.
Whoop whoop, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
How's it feel?
Daunting. My dad said, do you feel ready? And I said, as I'll ever be. I don't think anyone ever feels ready for that.
No, I didn't feel ready for it when I went through, and we've said this before, but I'll say it again. There is a moment in that ceremony that you will experience very shortly where it all hits you at once. It just really washes over you in one moment.
I mean, I've heard there's some emotion to it as well in terms of the ceremony, and it's one of the best things about this is that my father will be the one installing me. And so, well, I'm looking forward to seeing if he can hold it together.
I don't think he'll be able to. I've seen a few installations where either the grandfather or the father has installed the son, and there's always some element of emotion there, a little tear in the eye, or full-blown sort of letting it go at the festive board, because it's very special.
I'm not sure if he actually knows this, but my dad, I always remember from my initiation when he, the first time that he called me Brother Watley, he choked up a little bit. He took a moment where he went, oh, wow, like I just called my son Brother Watley for the first time. So yeah, it's definitely makes it all the more special for sure.
It will be really special, I think.
But anyway, back to today.
What's happening, Stephen?
Today we have a world exclusive, a very exciting opportunity that we're very grateful for. The 2 Grandmasters of the 2 Women's Freemasonry fraternities in England. And we're very much looking forward to hearing what they have to say.
Really excited. So we've got Most Worshipful Brother Suzanne Capen from the Order of Women's Freemasons, and we've got Most Worshipful Brother Christine Chapman from the Honourable Fraternity of Ancient Freemasons, also known as Freemasonry for Women as well. So, like Stephen says, world exclusive. This is going to be great.
Never been done before.
So, Suzanka, let's start with you, if we may, please. Could you talk to us about what led you into Freemasonry and how you joined?
Well, my mother and my grandmother were both members of the Order of Women Freemasons. It was a very long time ago, and I was a bored young woman looking for something else in my life. And with a friend, I decided we'd try this Freemasonry lark and see how we got on. It was a most amazing experience. My mother initiated me, and she is something of an actress. And I can remember my first meeting because she made it so dramatic, and at a point in the ceremony, which you will understand, I suddenly saw all these amazing women in evening dress with gold and blue and chains and goodness knows what else, and it just caught me immediately. It was amazing.
And Christine, what about yourself?
Well, likewise, it's a family connection, but in this case it was not only my mother, but it was also my father and my husband. They were all Freemasons, and I was very familiar with Freemasonry as a spectator, being gone to my father's ladies' night at about 16 or something. So I had a vague idea of what it was all about. My mother asked me in my 20s. I turned her down because I thought it was full of old women. I didn't want to go in. But the more she asked me and the more I saw of it, the more I thought, well, sounds quite interesting. And I knew quite a few of the people that would be in the lodge. So I went. And the rest, as they say, is history. And that, by the way, was in 1976.
So, obviously, looking back to that date, Christine, I guess you could never have guessed that fast forward a few years and you'd be the Grandmaster.
No, not really.
Did your mother get to see you become the Grandmaster?
No, sadly not.
No, that's a shame.
No.
But, I mean, could you ever believe that would have happened, that all these years later you would have been running the show?
They seem to be on Olympian heights, these wonderful women, and I never ever thought I could aspire to such excellence, but circumstances led to it. So there you go.
How about you, Suzanka?
Oh, no, there was no way I was ever going to go up the ranks in that way, but I just gradually got promoted and promoted and promoted, and then found myself in this happy or unhappy situation that I'm in now.
And how much time do you think, in terms of your normal lives outside of Freemasonry, how much does Freemasonry sort of impact your day-to-day life?
Well, on my bio, Facebook, my social media bio, it tends to say 24/7. But as I'm retiring at the beginning of next year, I think it will gradually diminish down to a much more manageable level. But whilst you're in high office, you have a duty and a responsibility to devote yourself to the running of a fraternity.
And how about you, Suzanne?
I spend, I should think, half my time on non-paying work.
Yes.
I'm almost retired professionally, so I'm able to spend to devote more of my hours to Freemasonry, and you just have to fit everything in as best you can. Sometimes it's a bit fraught, but.
What do you think you'll do with all the extra time once you do retire? You said, Christine, you mentioned that you're retiring soonish. What do you think you'll do?
My term of office finishes next year at the end of January, and I shall be getting out in the garden while I'm still able, because it gets harder as you get older. Just relaxing, knowing that I can pick and choose a little bit more about what I'm going to do with my day.
James knows about getting older, it's all right.
Yeah, have you found that, James?
Yeah, only a few more years to go. Thanks, mates. Thanks for that. We're in this incredibly privileged position at the moment to have both of you with us. One of the first times ever that both female Grandmasters have done a joint interview. I was wondering if you could kind of go into maybe a little bit about how the two female Grand Lodges are the same and how they differ, and what makes each one its own sort of unique character, if that's okay.
I'm not sure about your Grand Lodge officers, but we follow the same system as United Grand Lodge of England. We're not large enough to have provinces, and so we have an office called Grand Inspector, which looks after an area. So there will be a Grand Inspector for Yorkshire and a Grand Inspector for Cheshire, for instance. But our Grand ranks follow more or less the same as United Grand Lodge of England.
Well, quite similar to the OWF, but the big difference is size. We are that much smaller that we cannot be that widespread in the country. So our lodges are much more geographically distanced. We're very similar to UGLE in the ranks, Grand Officer ranks, but we do have a province which was set up some years ago in the northwest of England.
And Christine, am I right to understand that you have a lodge in the US?
Yes, we've got one lodge in the US in Washington. We've got one lodge in India, which is about to, hopefully, we're going to consecrate another 2 to 3 lodges next year.
And also Romania. And Spain.
And we're going to consecrate another one,
Gibraltar.
No, that was the first one. That was the first overseas lodge. His mother, a very important lady in Gibraltar.
So we're in Canada, Australia, South Africa, Spain, and Zimbabwe, but they're having a bit of a tough time at the moment. I'm not sure that they're really managing to meet very much in Zimbabwe, but ours are more are older and follow the sort of the old colonial system, where you had English groups of people overseas.
I think it's kind of nice that you've got that widespread. It's not the same countries, obviously not necessarily the same size as UGLE, so can't have that same scope of being everywhere.
No, we can't possibly.
And it's also really good because if we get an application for someone in India, then we will pass that on to Christine.
Yeah.
And equally, likewise, we pass you on all the ones that could be accommodated by South Africa.
Yeah.
And in the UK as well.
If you've got province or not province, but an area that
cooperation has really expanded quite rapidly in the last, since you and I have been Grandmaster.
Yes,
not before.
It's interesting you say that.
Not before.
It's great to hear you say that, actually, because one of my questions was, how do you, as two Grand Lodges, work together and support each other? And it seems like that's a really key element of that. Is we've got a candidate here, but we don't have a lodge, but you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of swapping between the two.
Yeah.
Well, that concept was really came to the fore with the university scheme.
I was just about
Edward
to talk
Lord
about it.
asked us if we would be willing to cooperate, and that's how we started all this cooperation with candidates.
Are there any other ways that you see sort of work together in terms of do you share? I mean, I think I know the answer, but I think a lot of listeners might not, in terms of how much you sort of share any lodge space, anything essentially. What do you share, what don't you share?
Do we meet in any of the same buildings?
No, I don't think
know.
we meet in the same buildings, but obviously we're using a lot of UGLE centres.
Yeah.
Which we do as well.
Yeah.
And the university scheme, we've sort of carved up the universities between us so that we don't tread on each other's toes.
Talking about the university scheme, I'm in a university scheme lodge, as are you, Stephen, and a key element of that is to initiate, pass and raise somebody, and then you sort of seamlessly hand them over to a lodge back in their hometown or where they're going to work. If somebody was to join, say, OWF, Suzanka, and then they were going to move to a different town where there was only a HFAF lodge, for example, is there a process in which they can move to join that other order, or is that not the case?
At the moment, we don't allow people to belong to both orders.
No, they can't belong to both, but they can transfer from one to the other.
We have. I mean, if one of our members wants to go to the Honourable Fraternity, then they resign from us and join, and vice versa. And we have special forms and new obligations and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
But it's a new obligation. Would they have to go through the ceremonies again?
No.
We recognise whatever status they've reached.
Sort of in a similar way, I imagine, than UGLE would recognise a foreign constitution in terms of, for example, the Spanish constitution. If they, so I see it in Gibraltar, if a Spanish Mason comes over to Gibraltar, they don't have to go through everything again. No. They're a past master, There's
no point.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting. I think probably what listeners would have been very familiar of in recent years, at least, is how close ourselves at UGLE and both OWF and Freemasonry for Women have been working closely together. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? How did that sort of come around? How long has that been in the workings? And I mean, we're at a point now where, last week, where we were celebrating the Constitution's 1723 Constitution's Tercentenary, you were both obviously there in the Grand Temple, which was fantastic to see.
Wearing regalia.
And wearing regalia. So can you sort of talk us through that relationship a little bit, please? Maybe Suzanka.
It is very recent in our history. We started in 1908, so we've been 100 and something years. My arithmetic's not good enough. And certainly when I first became a Freemason, nobody had any contact with UGLE, and UGLE didn't have contact with us. UGLE members were frowned upon if their wives and daughters became Freemasons. There was a lot of tension between the two organisations, and I think that's the same for you, Christine.
Well, actually, if you go way back in time to the time of Lord Northampton, he came to tea at our headquarters with our then Grandmaster Eileen Gray.
Really?
You remember they were called before the House of Parliament, that special select committee.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if she actually gave evidence or she just there supporting him when he gave evidence about Freemasonry.
But things have changed tremendously in the last 10 years. There's no question about that.
How did it feel to be at the 1723 meeting? And I saw photos in regalia as well, in a meeting, and that must have been quite a monumental
Christine wore
moment.
regalia. I chose not to.
I wasn't going to let that opportunity go by without being able to wear my regalia, because obviously we've been to the tercentenary celebrations and various other celebrations and celebratory meetings, but we've never ever been asked to wear our regalia. So yes,
So if
quite an honour.
one of the examples is that when we celebrated our 100 years at the Albert Hall, which was amazing, we invited, no, you weren't, not Christine, it was your predecessor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We invited UGLE and they refused to come. And that was in 2008.
So things have changed.
So you can see how things have rapidly changed since.
Good.
So
It's really in very recent times since we've been Grandmasters, isn't it?
I think that quite sort of nicely leads on to something that I get asked a lot. So we were saying, James was saying that we're both members of University Lodge. I'm the president of my Masonic Society at my university, at Keele University. And often the question that we get from students is, well, are there Women's Freemasons? And then when we say yes, and they say, well, where can I join? And they go, well, it depends where you are, and therefore which one you join. They go, well, why are there two Grand Lodges? Which I guess is the gold question that everyone asks.
Events, dear boy.
I was going to say that, events. Do you know, I Googled that this morning. He never actually said that.
Oh, does he not?
Harold Macmillan.
They had a serious falling out in 1913. Yes.
Oh dear.
Over the Royal Arch.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That has a bit of historical precedent, I think.
Blimmin' Royal Arch.
Yeah. So
Yes,
I mean,
some wanted to work the Royal Arch and some didn't. So the ones that wanted to said, right, we don't care, we're going to go and set up our own Grand Lodge, and they went on from there.
Yeah.
And you both work the Royal Arch
Oh,
now.
yes, we do
Yes.
now.
Oh,
Yeah.
And is it done in the same way in both of your Grand Lodges?
I don't think so. I think ours is slightly different, but I can't swear to it. Obviously, he's not been to
Yeah.
an OWS Royal Arch meeting.
Well, we worked the Aldersgate ritual.
I think we worked something similar, but I think we put our own working on it.
Sure.
It's one of the things that people muck about with the ritual.
Yeah.
easy.
A lot of our lodges use universal rituals, some are emulation, and they have their little ways.
I was going to say, tell that to Bristol. I mean,
But as far as I'm concerned, once you've done craft, you then work by the book, and there are so Mark, Royal Arch, everything after that is
So
by the book.
do you have a lot of other side orders or set
Okay,
degrees?
so in the order, I don't know what you do, Christine, but for us, once take 1, 2, 3. So we've got Master Mason. A Master Mason can then become a Mark Master Mason.
So you have to do that first before you...
And Secret Monitor, that's the other one that for Master Masons. Mark Master Masons can then take the Royal Arch.
Okay. Which
And
is slightly
then-
different, obviously,
And
to
then we
UGLE.
have, we then have a progression through all the various degrees in the Christian.
So it's very much a progression. It's not so much
absolutely. It is a progressive science, darling.
You can become a... Yeah, but just obviously in UGLE, you can, once you
Yes.
become a Master Mason, you
Yeah.
can join
Yeah.
most side orders. There obviously
Yes.
is some progression, but for example, you don't need to be a Mark Master Mason
No,
to join
no.
the Royal Arch and vice versa.
And also, with the gentleman, you can be a member of Rose Choir and not be a member of Craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because we've got everything under one umbrella, if you resign from Mark, you're sapped out of everything above it straight
I
away.
see, right.
So because
So
we've got
you
it
have to be
all
an
on,
active member.
it's all on one database. So what do you do,
Right.
darling?
Well, we obviously started with the Royal Arch, then they went on to Mark Masonry.
So do they have to do it in an order?
No,
or-
we don't
no?
specify the order they do
Okay.
it. We did do cryptic degrees for a while. I must say that in our Royal Arch we do the passing of the veils ceremony,
Which is slightly
which was
different.
introduced by
yeah.
our second Grandmaster, Seton Challen.
Don't know
So-
what that is.
Well, I think in
Neither
the
do I, don't I?
well, in the English Constitution, the passing of the veil ceremony is only now done in the province of Bristol.
Yes.
It's not part of
It's-
any other province.
I know that it's in the so part of I know it's in the Scottish Constitution, so I get to see it if I go to a Scottish Constitution lodge in Gibraltar because we're lucky that we have both, but and the Irish. So I sort of see the and from what I've sort of heard from little bits from at least from HFAF that a lot of your ritual is similar to the Scottish Constitution in a potentially more than UGLE, but I don't know what the case is for...
Well, we use the Aldersgate ritual.
Okay.
With no permissive variations. Those of you that are in the Royal Arch, there's all sorts of black lines, and you can do this or not. And I got fed up with it, and so we've now got
much
a
more
ritual
strict in
with
terms of
just this is what you do, and there's no changes, no variations.
Well, from that we went on and introduced Royal Arch. Sorry. Ram, I was going to call
Royal
it that.
Arch Mariner.
Royal Arch Mariner. Knights Templar priest. Oh, sorry, of course we did the Rose Croix, which came in about 1933. And we've got...
Because we helped you with your Knight Templar priest, didn't we?
Yes, a Knight Templar priest was set up. So we're looking...
And I keep trying to encourage you.
I know, we are looking
the
to introduce
monitor.
other degrees, but it's all a question of enough people to do this and enough time.
This is it.
There isn't enough time in the day to do everything, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think it's something interesting is how you start an entirely new degree. In terms of, for example, I know. Do you do, Susanka? Do you do Royal and Select Masters?
Yes.
For example, so you do. So, for example, if Freemasonry for Women wanted to do Royal and Select Masters, I assume one of the Grand Lodge be that.
No, it's not, because we actually started it in. I think it was the late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
So, and it sort of fizzled out by the 50s. So we could actually restart it if we wanted to.
I see.
Right, moving on. With my UGLE comms hat on, something that we often get hit with at UGLE is the fact that the idea that Freemasonry is gender exclusive. Now, I think we should take this opportunity to put this to bed once and for all. Do you want to merge with the men? And if not, why not?
No.
Not on my watch.
You've heard it here first.
I always say that if we are to join together with the men, the demand for it has to come from the membership. It has to come from the floor upwards and not from the top downwards.
I should also say that there are mixed Freemasonry orders. So if people want to go to a Masonic, it's not pure Masonry as we would do it, obviously, but there are other opportunities. Yes, other opportunities if people want to. But I think the exclusiveness of the gender is very valuable to us, and I think we should keep it.
How do you normally answer the allegation that Freemasonry is a sort of a boys' club, it's a men's club? Because when I speak to people about it and you tell them women's Freemasonry exists and is alive and well, they almost take a step back and go, no, that can't be the case. It's not real Freemasonry. But of course it is.
Well, I have been preaching Freemasonry for women since I was initiated. And I have never stopped. And if anybody dares to suggest to me that I'm not a real Freemason, they'd better look out, because I won't stand for it.
Well, obviously, with relations in such an improved state as we just discussed, what's stopping that sort of reunification? You said they split up, however long ago it was.
To clarify, you're talking about the two women's Grand Lodges.
Yes. To change subject from the men's and women's unification between the two women's Grand Lodges. You've got 100 years ago, or 100 so years ago, you split because of the Royal Arch. If that difference has now been resolved, what's the real difference now? What's stopping that reunification? And do you think that will happen at any point?
I would like it to happen, but it depends very much on our governing boards, how they see it, and whether they agree to it, whether they even agree to thinking about it. But I can tell you that the HFAF would be willing to consider it.
And from the floor up, like you said, it's not just your...
It's not the younger people.
Yeah.
Because they don't have all the baggage.
Yeah.
It's the senior in age and rank that are hesitant. Not me.
I imagine it's not really that long ago if you think about it. A few generations that can, as you say, baggage.
How long did it take United Grand Lodge of England to unite it? I think it was more than 100 years actually.
Over similar initial issues as well, actually, which is the whole reason that in the Book of Constitutions we have that interesting wording about the Royal Arch, that it's pure and ancient masonry consists of 3 degrees and no more: entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason, including the Supreme Order of the Holy Royal Arch.
Our constitutions say consists of 3 degrees and no more, entered apprentice, fellow craft, fellow craft completed by Master Mason and Master Mason, including Royal Arch. So we've got a little bit extra in our constitution.
It's amazing that use of language, I think, isn't it, in these documents. But it sounds like both of you would be, you know, have a hope in your heart that one day it may happen, that a reunification may happen.
Well, logically, it would make sense. We would present a united front to combat all these allegations about Freemasonry and the fact that it's a male-exclusive organisation. So, you know, if we were united, we'd be much stronger.
I'm taking that as a maybe. I'm taking that as a hard maybe. Brilliant. Stephen, any more from you?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask... I know, Christine, you said that your term of office is ending soon. Is there anything, and it's a question for both of you, but is there anything that you sort of want as a Hail Mary pass that you want to get done before you leave? Is there anything that you wanted to achieve before your end of office? And if so, do you think you'll manage it, and what is it?
I just want to complete the sale of our headquarters building.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard work for me at the moment. So, yeah, just to leave a happy fraternity behind me. So I hope that's what I'm going all out for.
I don't have a fixed term of office, so I'm elected every year, but in my constitutions I have to nominate my successor. So Christine is there for 4 years and then an election and then another 4 years. COVID has extended it, bless her, so she's had to sit there for 10 years?
Well, it will be 10 years, yes.
Whereas in the OWF it follows United Grand Lodge of England, so I'm there until I can find someone to take on the reins, basically.
But it's so... Whenever that may be, is there anything that in particular... It's
finding the right person to take over. That would be my...
That would be your...
If I could just find that one woman that has...
Yeah.
It's a huge undertaking, I think, to lead such a large organisation in both fronts.
And it's all the degrees in my case, and in your case.
Yes.
It's all the degrees as well.
Of course.
Which is not something that we have, obviously, in men's Freemasonry. We've got different Grandmasters for different orders,
Craft and Royal Arch, obviously, Duke of Kent is both, but other than that,
yeah. Do you feel like there's any sort of, well, I'm sure you do feel like there is a legacy that you're leaving behind. Is there anything particularly that you feel has changed from the time that you started to the time that you will be leaving? Is there something major that you're sort of like, yes, I've done that, and I'm proud of it?
Well, yes,
because I know you've done a lot. So
the attitude of UGLE towards women's Freemasonry, I think I've contributed quite a lot towards that change, without sounding too.
Yeah. Well, as you should, no.
And I think that we have such an increase in our profile over the last 10, 15 years. I was Zooming with our inspector in South Africa a couple of weeks ago, and she was thrilled to bits because the men's Grand Lodge Grandmaster had said to her that he saw me at your constitutions. Said, and she was absolutely gobsmacked. She couldn't believe it. So.
Ladies, we're kind of coming to the end now, and it's been amazing to have you. Thank you so much. As kind of a closing sort of statement or question, what would be your sort of pitch or way of talking about why, for women, Freemasonry is a good thing? Would you use the same arguments as we do in men's Freemasonry, or is there something that you want to say that you've gotten from it as a way to say
something
women
unique?
Women can be Freemasons, and this is what I've got from it, and this is what I see it give to other people?
Well, we always say that apart from all the usual benefits, which men feel, and women feel exactly the same, we've always emphasised that we feel that women can feel empowered once they become Freemasons. We teach everyone to believe in themselves and stand up for themselves, and we think that the act of learning ritual and taking part in ceremonies is a very empowering thing for women and gives them a great deal of confidence. And we also think it's a great support network for young women, especially when they move to different countries for work, or they move to different cities, and they know that they've got a lodge full of aunties.
A women's lodge is also a very safe and calm place. There are no outside distractions, and one can go into a meeting and forget all your problems and relax as much as you can if you're doing ritual. and come out of it feeling stronger and better.
Not sure how relaxed I was the first time I was doing the tracing board for the second degree, but oh well.
Well, Most Worshipful Brother Suzanne Capenne, Most Worshipful Brother Christine Chapman, thank you very much for joining us.
Great pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been delightful to talk to you.
So, brethren, the most worshipful Grand Master of both Orders of Women's Freemasonry, Christine Chapman and Suzanne Capenne, I learned a lot from that interview.
Absolutely.
What do you guys take away from that?
I think the thing that I really picked up on, which I wasn't aware of before, was that they do actually cooperate a bit with one another. I think beforehand I just thought they existed as entirely separate entities. What I didn't realise was that, as they described, if there's an area where perhaps one of them doesn't have a lodge but someone wants to join, they will pass that person on to the other, which I thought was really heartwarming. So yeah, never knew that. Really interesting.
And for me, sort of going on from that, the idea that they both have the same message and certainly, obviously, the big $1 million question, as we said earlier, as to whether they'll unite. Interesting to hear that it's not off the table, but also either way, they both seem to be having the same message and moving forward in the same direction, which is then I guess just a question of procedure, which is sort of nice to hear that there's no animosity. It's I think that's probably a misconception among a lot of people. It's nice to see the good relationship.
I thought that was a really good part of the interview, actually. And for me, the thing that I really took away from that was the actual, some of the differences in terms of how they deal with the appendant bodies, the additional degrees. So in OWF, you become a Master Mason. You then go into the Mark degree before you can become a Royal Archmason. Whereas in HFAF, it's much more closely aligned with what we do in UGLE, where you become a Master Mason and then you can join any other order that you like. And yes, the Royal Arch is the next natural step, but you don't have to join the Royal Arch next. You can join anything. So I thought that was a really fascinating difference between the two different orders. It's been interesting to get some great emails, actually, from our listeners over the last few weeks.
Exactly what we want to hear.
Exactly what we want to hear. We've had loads of people email in, podcasts@ugle.org.uk, and we've got a small selection of some of those emails in front of us now. I was wondering, Sean, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. So we've had a lovely email from Piers Levan, who is the Worshipful Master of the Orpheus Lodge, number 7697 in the esteemed province of Gloucestershire. And Piers has shared with us that he's currently undergoing some treatment for neuroendocrine cancer. He tells us it's a good prognosis, but of course we wish Piers the best of luck with his battle against cancer.
Yep.
Obviously goes without saying that all of us at Craftcast wish Brother Piers all the best. But Piers has said, "Evening, brethren. It's 9:30 and the hands are on the square. I'm lying in a lead-lined room in the oncology department at Oxford's Churchill Hospital, catching up on Craftcast and, of course, remembering absent brethren. I'm currently organising my not-called a ladies' night and just received a raffle prize donation of a signed match shirt by none other than Chris Robshaw from his time as a Harlequin. And he's asked, perhaps the Programme Master would like to buy a raffle ticket, can you ask? Well, Piers, absolutely, I'm sure we can pass on the question to the Programme Master, and once again, all of us here at Craftcast and UGLE wish you the best of luck.
Sean's got his home phone, obviously.
Speed dial.
Just speed dialing me out.
Mr. Watley.
Okay, from Andy McGovern. Thank you very much for writing in. Andy is a Master Mason from Bounds Green Lodge, number 4406. And he's written in with some excellent suggestions about topics for our podcast episodes. So he said, "Hi all, so I've started dipping into Craftcast and really enjoy listening to them. Thank you very much. So I go to think about what else might I want to hear about in the future. And whilst I'm guessing you've already thought of some of these, and they are in your plans, I thought I'd share them anyway, just in case. So, his first suggestion, something about Solomon and how useful it is to learning more about the craft and chapter, and of course contributing your daily advancement."
Good one.
Love it.
Yeah, I like it. Definitely something, I'm not sure we've spoken much about that, so that's probably a new suggestion.
Definitely, yeah.
So thank you very much. You'll get a shout out if we do that, for sure.
Yeah, do.
Second suggestion, beyond the craft, the different orders. That is something we've spoken about. Beyond the craft and Royal Arch, and we will. That's probably
lots
something
coming on that.
That's in the pipeline. Yeah.
Lots in the works
Andy.
for that.
Don't worry, we got you.
Don't you worry, we'll bore you to death with that.
Well,
well, Sean will at least. Other constitutions, particularly of Prince Hall with its origins in the English Constitution.
good one.
Definitely a good one. Yeah, and obviously I'll talk lots, I'm sure, about that with Gibraltar being having English, Scottish and Irish constitutions.
We'd be shocked if you didn't.
I know. Yeah, so would I. And the fourth suggestion is Masonic history and famous Masons.
I like that.
Had another suggestion from a friend of mine recently about particularly people, famous Masons, and what they've done in the world, and maybe if we know how Freemasonry has impacted their life, would be an interesting topic.
Nice.
So shout out to Will Taylor, my friend. Thank you for that.
I will.
And the final one, how I got into Freemasonry. Everyone always asks how we are, but never how we got into Freemasonry. So
Yeah.
it also occurred to me that the occasional guest presenter joining you would be good. You're all quite young, and I, for one, would like to hear from someone who maybe came into Masonry a bit later on in their life. I don't know. I mean, James isn't that young.
I'm refraining from comments here.
Oh, no. No, but I think it's a good point that Andy makes. And I think actually looking into getting a guest presenter on every now and then for the sort of more discussion-based episodes is a good shout. So I think some good suggestions there, Andy.
So keep up the good work, and congratulations on a fabulous podcast series. Thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. And the last one this week is from Cameron Raphael, who is a member in Cornwall. And he says, "Good afternoon, Craftcast team, Sean, James and Stephen. First, I'd like to say how much I enjoy the Craftcast. I'm a young member in the province of Cornwall, a member of St Mary's Lodge 8892. I have to agree with you entirely on the feeling of delivering ritual for others. Only a month after my own initiation, I was delivering the first degree tools for another brother. I was incredibly nervous, even though I have public speaking experience. So it was wonderful to have the feeling of support of all present. It certainly bolstered me to do my best, and I have since delivered the second degree tools for the same brother at the installation without the nerves. I've enjoyed being a younger member and meeting so many fascinating people that are now my friends. And I had no connection to anyone in Freemasonry at all, but have been made to feel so welcome. Once again, thank you for such great content." That's a great email.
Thanks,
from
Cameron.
That's lovely to hear.
And well done for getting involved in your lodge. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It does take guts to stand up, especially the meeting after your initiation, and to deliver a piece of work. So seriously, Cameron, well done.
I always think it's nice when you follow a candidate through their ceremonies as well and do different bits of work for them, for sure. Yeah, very well done. Thank you for writing in.
Well, chaps, I think that's it, isn't it? For another episode of Craftcast. Listen, everyone, thank you very much for joining us once again. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you. We hope you've enjoyed it. Get in touch with us, podcast at ugle.org.uk. Follow us on our socials, all over every different platform. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye for now.
Craftcast, the Freemasons podcast. The podcast is hosted by Sean Butler, Stephen Watley and James Dalton. The producer is Marta Zandri. And the podcast is edited by Trisonic.